Mike Phillips here. Back to this 1969 Plymouth Roadrunner project. This side of the trunk lid over here, I've actually already sanded it, compounded it, polished it for an in-house video showing our body shop line and our sanding products. I still have this back panel here behind the window to finish sanding, then compounding. I still need to sand the section here, and then of course the whole side of this car. But one of the things I wanted to share right now was sharing the concept of edging. So you can see where I've edged this panel. I'd edged the whole thing, but again, I've already buffed that side out. And then I edged this panel, and to do that, I come in with the PXE, the FLEX PXE, and I was using a 3-inch disc, okay, to get close to the edge. And the reason why is because with this lightweight small tool, it's really easy to control it and get close to the edge without buffing on the edge or on a raised body line. Now, for this particular car, there's a panel that runs right along here, and it's about 2 inches wide. And so what I've done is I can't sand that with a 3-inch disc because I'll sand on the edge and I'll sand on the raised body line. So what I've done is I've taken one of our 2500 grit sanding discs, and I just took a 2-inch flex backing plate and I drew circles. I just stuck it on there and drew circles with the ink pen. Then I took a pair of scissors and I cut out these little 2-inch discs. And so now I'm able to come down here, let me grab a fresh one, and just knock down all the orange peel and the surface texture along this section right here. So just to get this knocked out, and again, the problem with this car is it was actually originally block sanded with acrylic blocks. It was done right, okay? And then the next 4 or 5 months here in Florida, as the panels expanded and contracted with the normal ambient temperature, there got to be this grainy appearance in the paint. And so to fix that, I'm just resanding with the 3D ACA 2500 grit sanding discs. And all I'm really doing is I'm just knocking down the paint until that grainy appearance is flattened out. And just like that. So I just sanded this one section here. And of course, you know, you got to get down, use ambient light, and look to see. You got to carefully look and see if all that graininess is taken care of. And in most of this one section it is, but I can also see that I've got a couple places I need to clean up a little bit. The owner, by the way, came by and looked at the progress I did the hood for a live video and was very impressed. He thought that's exactly how he wanted it to look. Maximum DOI, so that means distinction of image. So it looks more like a mirror, and it got rid of all that graininess. Okay, so I've sanded this thin panel down here, and what I'm going to do next is I'm going to go ahead and take off the 2-inch backing plate, and I'm going to switch back over to the, let me get this off here, 3-inch. I'm going to edge the top of this fender, and I'm going to come down and buff this whole thing out. This is what's nice about this FLEX PXE. It's got this quick release collar here, so you can just snap in the different components as you need them. Okay, I don't remember if this is a fresh pad, but I can tell right away. I'm gonna bump this up to the 4. And I can tell already this is not a brand new sanding disc, but it's still sanding, so I might as well get my money's worth out of it. Yeah, this disc is cooked, so we'll pull this off. When you have a fresh disc, I gotta tell you, man, it really cuts fast. So I'll just got a little bit to do here, and then I'll start the compounding. Okay, beautiful. I'm going to come back, so now I'm just going to come back here, and you can't see it from where that camera's at, but I am standing right next to this raised body line, the edge of the top of the fender here. And if any of this is new to you, the reason you do not want to sand on a raised edge or body line is because sanding takes off paint, compounding takes off paint, and polishing will take off a little bit of paint. And the last thing you want to do when you get to the compounding and polishing stuff is turn your pad over and see the color of the base coat. Because that'll mean you went through the clear coat. That means you got to repaint. So that's why I really like this PXE with the 3D sanding system, because it's easy to control it and keep all that sanding action right where I want it. Okay, so I've got this side here edged, this is edged. I'm gonna put this away. Now it's time to bring out the big 6-inch sander and knock out the rest of this here. So up here you can see where I've edged it along this edge and the end of the panel as it comes into this trim here. But I still need to kind of do the center and do what I call schmoo, kind of schmoo the two different sanding sections together. So let's turn this on, I'm gonna bring the speed up. This back panel here actually has a lot of graininess to it. Pretty apparent. Stand back here, look at the overhead lights, and you can see that graininess. And this is actually a concave panel. So one of the things that I'm doing, besides using the interface pad, is I'm actually kind of tilting it up a little bit. And what that does is reduces the contact of the disc from this huge 6-inch diameter to about a 3 or 4-inch diameter. Like that. Kind of tricks of the trade. Good. It is time for a new sanding disc. Turn this off. Okay. This is probably the hardest part, is just centering these up. These sanding discs are very thin by design. They're laser cut, and what happens is they tend to curl up. Okay, so there we go, 100% on. No portion of the interface pad is going to come in contact with the paint. Okay, so look how fast a brand new disc is sanding here. You can see the clear coat powder there. Then just hold a towel against this, get it clean. Then And what I really need to do is focus on this right here though. Okay, then I basically just inspect, and what I'm doing is I'm looking at the overhead lights in the paint, and I'm trying to make sure that all that surface texture, that graininess, has been knocked down flat, and that looks good to me. I forgot to sand out the center. I did all the edge work, the hard part, and I didn't do the easy part. That's okay. Bump the speed up here. This actually goes really fast. Edging usually takes a little longer, you just got to be careful. Now I'm going to go over this one time, and I just want to show you how much paint's coming off, and then I want to clean the dust off here and off my sanding disc, just so I get a better cut, you know. And I want to try to avoid clogging the disc. Now I'm going to cross hatch, so I'm going to go a different way. It's important when you're machine sanding, you know, to at least overlap your passes. You want to use somewhat of a tight pattern, and the goal of that is to basically have UMR, Uniform Material Removal. Okay, look at all that paint on there. I teach glass polishing. I do a lot of glass polishing myself. I work on a lot of classic cars where the glass has wiper marks, you know, just normal kind of swirls and scratches, and they get to be 30, 40, and sometimes 50 years old. And the owners of these cars don't really want to replace the glass if it's an all original car. They want the original glass in there. And in some cases, the glass might not even be available. So that's starting to look pretty flat. So got some more to go here though. And one of the things you can see by this powder, this paint powder, this paint dust on the deck lid and also on the face of the sanding disc, okay, you see how it's white? Okay, so this is a clear coat. So when you abrade something clear, it turns it opaque or whitish. And you can see it right here. And that same thing happens when you have a scratch in glass. When you scratch glass, which is clear, the scratch tends to make the glass opaque or whitish, kind of frosted looking. Anyway, there's a small little bit of correlation I thought I'd bring to your attention. You know, if you never wet sanded or dry sanded clear coat, and that is when you sand something clear, it turns white. You can see that on my disc, and you can also see that in glass. And we have a brand new glass polish that starts shipping this month. Is December 2022 as I'm making this video, and it works exceedingly well. In fact, as I'm working on this Roadrunner, I'm actually waiting for a Oldsmobile 442 to come in that has some pretty bad wiper marks on the passenger side glass. And I'm going to use that for a how-to article, a how-to video, and also for a webinar for the IDA next Thursday. I think is December 15th. So you can go up to the IDA if you see this video before then, and you can register to watch that and watch me remove sanding marks, or not sanding marks, but just scratches, wiper marks, live on camera. Which always makes me a little bit nervous, but not that bad. Okay, So let me go ahead and inspect here. And I just want to, looking at the very surface to make sure it's nice and flat. And that looks pretty flat to me. That looks good. Okay, so the next thing now is to go ahead and pull these sanding marks out. Okay, so my normal style for compounding is I usually like to do the hardest parts first. And in this particular case, nothing's like really hard, but I'll go ahead and get warmed up working right here. And this is a piece of stainless steel or chrome trim I have taped off up here, so I gotta pull the sand marks up here, along this raised body line and around this edge. But first I kinda wanna break my pad in, it's dry, get some compound going on here and a little bit on the edges. So. There's a technique with the rotary called buffing off an edge. And what that means is making sure that the pad as it's spinning is buffing off the edge and not into the edge. And then once you kind of get used to what it takes to make sure your pad is always rolling off an edge, it makes it a lot easier to buff out intricate parts or anywhere you have an edge or a body line. So an example of that is when I feel this side of the panel is higher than this side, and my pad is spinning this way, so it's buffing off that edge. So I've got sanding marks about a thumbnail distance away, and that's why you see me taking and just running this right up to the edge, not really on the edge, but if I were to get onto that edge, that pad would spin off of it instead of grabbing it and jerking my polisher out of my hand. And that's what is meant by buffing off an edge. Okay. Inspect this. Whenever I can, I like to try to make sure I remove all the sanding marks on the panel mat. Sometimes I gotta come back, sometimes you move the car in a different area. There's a few right there. And you just gotta come back and clean it up, but you definitely wanna get rid of all the sanding marks with the wool pad and the rotary versus trying to come back and work them out with any of the other less aggressive steps like polishing with the front panel. Okay, I'm gonna live with that. Now, I'm gonna go ahead and take out all the sanding marks here. And this is a fairly large section. I can probably tackle this. It's 2 foot by 2 foot, maybe a little bit larger. Before I do that, I wanna take and clean the pad. As I've mentioned in other videos, cleaning your pad, just like when you wipe residue off. Okay, here's some residue. Just like I wipe the residue off here, I have residue that builds up here, and I don't wipe it off, I spur it off. If you don't, you're gonna mix this fresh product with the old product that's on there. It's gonna pollute it and dilute it. And the resulting residue that's left behind is gummier and stickier and is more difficult to wipe off. So now you risk marring the paint, plus it tires you out. Okay, so let me just pick this up and spread it around. That's called the 10 to 10 technique. my speed up to about to 3. And then just carefully start working out my sanding wall. Panels like this, you know, a good way to do it is to use a crosshatch pattern. So, you know, I went side to side. Now I'll go front to back. Overlapping maybe just a little bit less than 50%. That was basically, I think, 3 section passes. I went over there 3 times, and I got to do a little bit of edge work here, but if I just take and wipe this off so the camera can pick this up, I think you can see, I mean, I've removed like 90% easily of all the sanding marks. Now I just got to come back and do a little cleanup on the edges, and to do that I'll put some product down, and I like to call this the finger painting technique. And all I'm really doing is I'm just kind of spreading this, the abrasives and the lubrication along this area that I want to polish. And when I'm done, just take any excess and put it right on the pad. Okay. You see me go back and forth like that. What I'm doing is I'm buffing into the sanding marks, then coming back and looking to see that they're gone. If they're gone, I move forward. If not, I do it again. They're all gone. Now I'll tackle this area. And when you're doing edge work like this with an 8-inch pad, it is a good idea to take your time. Okay, take a moment, inspect my work. Well, a little bit of sandmarks right there on the edge. Okay, so a little bit right there. here in the corner. This looks pretty good. And I'm going to run over this just one more solid set of 2 or 3, maybe 4 section passes. I just want to make sure it's 100% gone. Throw a little compound out there. Okay. Okay, a couple more section passes here, and this panel is done. Usually like those P14 quarters right up there in the 3, sometimes the 4 setting, all the way to 6 on gel coat. For base coat, clear coat, or even single stage, right around the 3. I think that's right around 1,000, 1,100 RPM. Real manageable to hold and buff. Okay. That section is done. The only thing left here now are the holograms, and that's normal. Those come from the, in the case of our abrasive technology, those come from the fibers in the wool pad. Okay, so now what I'm left with is the top of the fender and this little inset panel right here. And to tackle that, I'm just going to put a nice thin strip right here to start there. Then I'll come back and add some more product, but first, I'm going to clean this pad. Black paint. Okay, so I got the edge right along here next to where the actual trunklet is. Oh, dead battery. I want to come back and get the right across the raised body line here. One time this guy asked me, you ever get nervous working on other people's cars? And I don't know what he was thinking, but I said, hell yeah. Very nervous. Ooh, that's a hard area to buff right there. Sometimes it's hard to get the light right where you need it. There we go. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, now I just got this top section here. Move on to the bottom. Okay, so now I'm just going to run down this top edge here, this raised body line. And this is kind of over a technique I taught in a previous video. Years ago I wrote this article called The Rule of Thumb. And what that article was about was take your thumb and put it next to a raised body line and keep about a thumbnail distance away from that raised edge or that body line. And the reason why is because you don't ever want to put sanding marks where you can't safely run this pad. And I can get pretty close to it without being on it. But it all starts with thinking this stuff through in the first place. And don't put sanding marks where you can't buff. Gosh, this 510, it just cuts so freaking fast. Okay, they're gone along that edge. So now I got this edge. Okay, right there, I was doing what's called buffing off an edge. So I just wanted to clean this up just right here next to this edge. This pad's spinning this way and I'm tilting it. So when it hits this edge, it's just rolling off that edge instead of, if I come at it this way, that pad's spinning this way, it's gonna hit that and it's gonna yank it. So you wanna learn how to buff off an edge. Okay, I'm just gonna work this little section here just a little bit more and call it good. Okay, good enough. Whew. Oh, real quick. No black paint. Okay. Years ago, I wrote this little saying. It goes like this: words cannot describe the heart-sinking feeling that overcomes you when you realize you've just burnt through the paint of some other guy's car. So try not to do it. It doesn't feel good. Okay, so as I wipe this off, I see one more place I gotta touch up, and it's right along here. This car is parked in a way where right now it's really hard to get the overhead light there. That didn't want to bend it around. So let me throw a little compound right there. That is the only place I see it though. I got it. Okay. In my classes, I teach sanding, and I kind of tell the students that, you know, while it's good to have the knowledge, it's good to have the skill, in most cases, you really never want to take on a project like this. It is a lot of work. Okay, so now something I covered in the previous video was in most cases in a body shop situation, you would use a dedicated polish. I just used a dedicated compound. But for me, if the paint's already cured and if the customer doesn't want ceramic coating, then I like to use 3D Speed as my polish. Okay, so this is a 3D 6.5 inch light purple polishing pad. It's dry, so I'm gonna put an ample amount of product on it here. I got all that thing to do. There you go. I'm not a really big fan of 3P size drops. That kind of works after your pad is broken in, or if you've got a property primed microfiber pad. But for this kind of work, I mean, you need some substance on the paint. But I go ahead and use 3D Speed as my polish. It'll do the same thing a polish will do, plus it'll lay down a coating of Montan wax, and I'm gonna put Bead It Up over that. So let me go ahead and knock this out. And my normal operating procedure is a good solid 8 section passes. And I know for sure the holograms will be gone. Here's a mistake I see a lot of guys make. They put the product down like this, kind of smoosh it around, and when they come up to it, they run the edge of the pad into it. And instead what you want to do is you want to tilt this, keep a part of the pad in contact with the paint, but tilt it and grab it, pull it underneath the pad, then spread it out, so like this. Okay, so that doesn't count as a section pass. That's just spreading the product out. So now turn the speed all the way up. 8 solid section passes. A section passes. The last 2 passes I brought my pressure up a little bit on the 7th, but A basically the way of the tool. Okay. No black paint. So, just real quick here, with the Flex 3401 being a gear-driven 8mm random orbital polisher, not random. What I like about this is, one of the first things I want to do is this edge between the truncoid and the end of the fender here, I want to go up on edge and really work that edge just to make sure I got all the holograms out, and if there were any residual sanding marks, it would probably pull those out too. If I used the free spinning tool, of course the pad would stall out. I could not do that. I would have to get a micro tool that was a free spinning tool and get in there. With the Flex Beast and the red beast inside, you can just go up on edge and you can make this tool do whatever it is you need to get done. It has that kind of power and versatility. The edge and the raised body line. Now I'm going to come back and just put some focused pressure kind of right down the middle of that tool sand line. No black paint. Okay, so that section is done. A little more product and kind of knock out this top section. First I'm going to get this raised body line. clean towel and no black paint. So far I'm 0 for 0 on this car. There's been no burn throughs. And look how easy this wipes off. This is another reason I like to use this as my polish. It's just because it wipes off so easy. Something on my towel there. Right there. I inspected all these towels before I started. Down there, something's wrong. Okay, the recovery, there's a little smear right there. Oh my gosh. You know, I inspected these before we started, these two piles here, and I missed that. That is a little piece of wood fiber somehow got in there. And that is why you always want to inspect your towels before you polish. I see another little smear right there. It takes hours to buff out a car, and it takes seconds to put a scratch in. There we go. Whatever that was, it is now gone. Okay, so I still have the other half of that back panel and the top of the fender to do, but this part here is done. I don't see any sanding works anywhere. And then, of course, to top this, I'm going to use Bead It Up. And I like this because I can show this to my customers. I mean, a spray-on wipe-off, it can't get any simpler than that. So I know they can maintain their car with it. It's a polymer coating. It's the real deal. It's not just a glorified spray detailer or even spray wax. But what I like to show people is buy this by the gallon, pour it off into a 32-ounce jug, and get yourself this very common gray chemical resistant sprayer, because look what a great job it does of atomizing. And that's all you really want to do, is just lay down a real thin layer. Spread it around, turn your towel over to the dry side, and when you do that, you'll instantly feel that surface become very, very slippery. And I know people, wow, just like that, you can feel it. People love their paint to feel slippery. Okay, beautiful. Same side I had to start with. This is the wet side, the dampened side. Okay, spread it, flip to the dry side, and wipe off. And that is how I'm going to finish up this entire car. So all the products that you saw me use here today, you can get at 3dproducts.com. I will put a link down below. That link is going to take you to an article I wrote called 563 Pictures that shows you what a real detailing class looks like, okay? And click on that link and look, and here's what you're going to see. I think by 8 o'clock in the morning, I had all my students using a wool pad on a rotary on 3 really cool cars. Really in really bad shape. Obviously, they're using a wool pad on rotary. But as you go through and look at all the pictures, you won't see any chairs, no PowerPoint. It's just people training on the coolest cars and the coolest boats. My class schedule is up for 2023. We're here in sunny Stuart, Florida, and I promise you I cover more topics and more techniques than any other class on planet Earth. And you can get that information by going to 3dproducts.com, search around the top, so you see a text button that says Learn, and then click on Detailing Classes with Mike Phillips. But I will include the link to the write-up I did for my last class that I had here. My class detailed 12 cars in 2 days and 2 boats in 1 day. So obviously no sitting around looking at a PowerPoint. We get up, we start early, we get the job done, you learn a lot, and you have a lot of fun too. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you've got any questions, I'm pretty easy to find on social media. And I like to hang out and post all my articles on our discussion forum because it holds the kind of meaty articles I write where Facebook and Instagram just simply can't hold that kind of content. But that's at 3ddetailtalk.com. And I hope to see you at a future class.